I saw you are signed to Kitsune, the label.
We did quite a lot with Kitsune. We did our first couple of singles with them, and then we did a debut EP and a few remixes. But past that, we've kind of just gone it alone, really, and done a couple of 7-inches since doing stuff with them. We really only we just chatted to Kitsune the first time ever, first label ever, and they turned around and said, well, do you want to do this, this and this and this? So I wasn't really aware of Kitsune in a huge way at that point, but soon became aware that they're sort of a tastemaker label, would you say? Kitsune, that's what I kind of learned along the way. So they don't necessarily work with bands over a long period of time. They have their bands, which they do, but there's a lot of acts that go out on Kitsune that you never really see again on Kitsune, if you know what I mean. Yeah. And I think we're one of those bands. Yeah. And then just sort of took 2 years out and decided we're going to try and do something slightly different to what we were doing before, and took 2 years just to write an album. So that's kind of the kind of stuff we're debuting at the moment, and that's going out on a label that I work for, which is pretty cool, because I don't really want to kind of spread it out too much. I want to kind of know what's going on, because when you start working with bigger labels and stuff, you kind of lose touch with sort of how stuff's going, if you know what I mean. Well, Kitsune is such a long time ago now. We're going back like 3 years, I think. Since then, I've pretty much had my head in the sand with creating an album. It's been a pretty quiet kind of 2 years, and because I've just been concentrating on that, I've really felt like I've just lived underground, and I've only just kind of surfaced now, just to start playing some shows again. Where I see it going, I don't really know. I mean, we've kind of like done these tunes, we don't really know how they're going to go down. They're not really the same as what we were doing before. We've kind of gone someplace else a little bit with the material, so we'll just have to see, because the album's out in a couple of weeks on Glasstone Records, which is a label which I'm also involved in, doing graphic design and stuff. And yeah, we're working with some good people, and it's all very much more kind of like a DIY kind of grassroots thing, so we'll have to see. I know I could completely flop, or you know, who knows.
In your tracks, you involve lots of chiptune sounds. How did you decide to just use that? I mean, normally you have a cello in your band as well. There was a guy at my school, he played cello, he played in the band. You don't have something like, there's a guy who he plays Game Boy, let's put him in the band, or it's just personal taste.
There's a few tunes in there which are older tunes, and we kind of stuck them at the start and kind of built the set back up to kind of, you know, brought in the newer stuff towards, you know, so it kind of progressed in that way. The older stuff, yeah, maybe it kind of, you know, has that a more kind of like game kind of thing going on, but I think the newer material kind of is departed now from that kind of thing. We've never really used Game Boys or any of that kind of stuff. It's just kind of an, you know, a sort of influence, you know, when it was electronic music, because I used to play in hardcore bands, and then I decided to do electronic music, and I think it just naturally felt right at the time to kind of bring some of those influences in. But now it's kind of my tastes have changed a little bit, and I kind of like dirt and distortion and stuff like that, so the album's a bit more kind of dirty.
One of your singles, speaking of that, the time you grew up, is called "Young Tender Hearts Beat Fast," and the video involves a unicorn. And I read a story. It was in some interview where that unicorn comes from. Why you use that? Why is that? I don't just want to. That's true.
Well, again, going back to the the 80s, I really love that film Legend. Do you know the film?
I know the film.
It's Tom Cruise, blah blah blah, and it's just a really sort of, you know, light and dark kind of film, and I kind of wanted to do a video that kind of harked back a little bit to that. And Young Tender Hearts Beat Fast is kind of quite a light and dark tune. I don't really know if the video makes any sense, to be honest, with the song, but and the lyrical content is a little bit kind of like all over the place as well. But we just kind of, You Love Her 'Cause She's Dead doesn't really ever make sense, if you know what I mean. It's kind of, we just put together the things that we like, and Legend is one of my all-time favourite films from being a kid, so it just felt right to do something that's a little bit like that.
I need you to sign this, because I heard this and I still had it in my, I still had it in my shelf, and I thought, I need you to sign this record. I love that movie and really want you to sign that record.
Okay, mate. No worries. So I can go and get this signed for you, and then bring it back here.
Perfect. No hurry.
Cool. Okay.
So softly